In Meadows' 2005 article, Healthier Eating, she states that most more Americans than ever are obese, overweight, and at increased risk of chronic diseases such as heart disease, which is the leading cause of death, and other cancers. She also states that most Americans consume too many calories and not enough nutrients. I believe that this can be prevented by simply looking at a food label. That brings me to my question. How many of you look at a food label before eating or buying a certain food? Me neither. But you should. Looking at a food label is very important because it lets you know the amount of nutrients are in that food, the amount of fat, protein, carbohydrates, sugar, and fiber. The ingredient list, what ingredients were used in making that product, and if the food's organic or not. I believe the ingredient list is the most important one because if you're allergic to any foods, or you don't know if you're allergic or not, then you decide to try it, and you're with a swollen throat and you can't breathe because you're allergic to nuts, because you skipped over the ingredient list before checking the food label, before buying the food. And it's very important to do that. As I said before, most Americans consume too many calories and not enough nutrients. And that can be just as bad on the flip side, by consuming too much of one nutrient and not enough of the others. Like protein. Consuming too much protein and not enough carbs puts a lot of stress on the body. And consuming too much of one nutrient, protein, fat, carbohydrates, sodium, fiber, puts your body out of balance, which brings me to my next point. Eating nutrient-dense foods. Nutrient-dense means that the food has good nutrients, has a good amount of nutrients in each one. It's a good balance. And Wansink, Brumberg, and Shimitsu's 2013 article, Association of Nutrient-Dense Snack Combinations with Calories and Vegetable Intake, they say eating non-nutrient-dense foods such as potato chips contributes to childhood obesity. Eating nutrient-dense food gives you more for what you are eating, and it makes your meal or snack more balanced. Look also on the food label, it determines if the food is organic or not. There'll be a little symbol on the food itself, on the packaging. Organic means that there's no chemical treatment done to the food or the soil it was grown on. In Kat's 2012 article, Organic Food Better, she states that the consumption of organic fruits and vegetables did reduce the exposure to pesticide residue. Organic food is a better option. Eating organic food is a better option, especially when you're looking to avoid any processed food. So when you go for a snack, choose an organic fruit or vegetable because they're high in natural sugars and none of the refined sugars that cause cancer. They give you a lot of energy and they're filling. Brings me to my last point. Looking at the ingredient list is, I believe, the most important part, because if you have any food allergies or on a restricted diet, such as you're vegan, vegetarian, or lactose intolerant. It is very important to check the ingredient list before consuming or buying a food product, because you might be allergic to one of the ingredients. In Burley's 2011 article, Nutrition, Look at the Food Label Please, he states that if you have any allergies or a restricted diet, lactose intolerant, vegetarian, vegan, look at the ingredient list. Because you don't want to buy a snack that looks healthy, and you take your first bite, and then a couple minutes later, you have a swollen throat, and you're on the phone, 911, because I can't breathe, because of soy or nuts. That's why it's very important to check the food label, the ingredient list. And if you're going to a potluck and you don't check the ingredient list for nuts or soy, and someone eats it and you didn't mark there's nuts or soy on it because you didn't know, but because you didn't check the food label, so the potluck might get really ill from the allergy. There's one way to prevent eating non-nutrient dense foods, eating foods that you are allergic to, and eating and making sure you buy organic food. And that's by looking at the food label. So take a couple minutes of your time when you're grocery shopping to make sure that the food that you're gonna buy or eat is nutrient dense, organic. You can actually consume it without having any allergic reaction, and doesn't have any of the refined sugars in it, like the fructose or any of that stuff. There's a rule of thumb: if you can't pronounce it, it's probably not good for you. And also, if it's os, it's gross.